Pull hard and pull through. Scarlo and Rheneas were resting in the siding near Scarlo. They were talking about the news they had heard from Mr. Percival, and they were rather excited. Did you hear about the new engine? Oh, yes, I did. I am excited. I heard he's huge. But more engines means more work, and more work means more work for me. It's not fair. Mr. Percival has it out for me. Rubbish. It's not rubbish. I'll prove it to you one day. Anyways, when's the new engine supposed to get here? I think today around 3. What time is it? Just then they were cut off by troughing in the valley. They anticipated it to be the new engine, and they were correct. As they waited, the engine's shape began to appear. It had 2 tenders at each end, and the engine actually hung between them. As they pulled in, the engines couldn't help but stare. Hello. Is this a silent railway or something? I've heard of monsters, but this is something else. I tell ya, this is just, oh my, Duncan! Excuse him. I'm Scalloy, that's Rheneas, and that's Duncan. This is the Scalloy Railway. Hi, I'm Andres. I'm a Garrett locomotive. A Garrett is basically a locomotive, except it has 2 tenders, and the boiler is suspended between them, and the drive wheels are under the tenders, meaning that the boiler and cab don't actually have drive wheels. Very interesting. Yes, interesting indeed. Are you sure you'll be smart enough to work around here? I'm sure of it. That night, the sheds, Andres was getting to know all the engines, and the engines were getting to know him. Except for Duncan. Still a monster, he growled. Never trust a monster, never let a vampire into your house, he grumbled, but under his breath, he didn't want anyone to hear him, nor Andres. Why does the railway even need that big of an engine? He'll pull the couplings apart, let alone the carriages. He's not gonna be a smooth rider, and I would know. Even me, I'm not a smooth rider. The more Duncan complained, the more drowsy he got, and eventually he fell asleep. Nevertheless, Andres still had a good time, even though she had the looming thought that Duncan was saying things about him. The next day, Andres was working passenger services to get to know the line. He was excited, and he had completely forgot about Duncan's rude remarks, and he was having a joyful time around the yards. Just then, Duncan woke up, and he was already prepared to tease. Oh, the big purple monster's about to pull a train. I can't wait to see how that goes. Oh! Just then, Rheneas buffered down onto him. This is the exact reason why we're double-heading, so can you please try and be appropriate? Fine. See you later, monster. Andres departed. The way he had to depart was a little bit confusing and complex for him, but he was able to get the gist of it eventually, and soon was setting off down the line with his passenger train. Duncan and Rheneas' train followed suit. Later, Andres and Rheneas and Duncan passed each other. It didn't go as well as they had anticipated, and later they did it again. Each time Duncan would say a rude remark. Toodaloo, monster! Andres only had a good feeling that Duncan would get his comeuppance sooner or later. However, that wasn't to say the rest of the journey was smooth. Traveling down the line, Andres began to pull harder than he had expected. And, with an almighty snap, he separated from his coaches. By the time he had realized, the coaches had already stopped. Oh no, he thought, we're going to be dreadfully late. Duncan is also gonna laugh at me. He rushed along the line, going as fast as he possibly could have to try and make up the time, but still fell a few minutes late. Well, what kept the monster behind? Went to go spook some children under the bed, eh? Duncan, enough, scowled Reneus. Andrews didn't say anything. He didn't have the good feeling anymore. Well, I'm only speaking the truth. Obviously something went down, but Duncan wouldn't know until later. Andrews soon started off later, but little did he know Duncan would be Later, Duncan and Reneus thundered down the line. If Duncan had been more careful, he would have seen the damaged rail, and the fact that Reneus derailed. And by the time Andrews made it up to the station, Rusty was already re-railing Reneus, but the situation was more than it looked. Reneus is damaged and can't move anymore, nor can Duncan pull the train. We need someone to take both your and his train. Soon, they got thinking with an idea. By the time they came up with one, Duncan was in denial. It'll never work. He can't pull both trains by himself. But there was no other option. So, soon, both trains were rearranged with 2 guard vans and double the amount of coaches. Rusty took Reneus away, and Andrews and Duncan double-headed the behemoth of the train. By the time they made it to the last station, both engines were exhausted, and Duncan was feeling sorry for himself. The passengers, both engines. Later, Duke took Duncan and the passengers away. I'm sorry, Duncan called, but Andrews had pretended he didn't hear it.